Season 4 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine got off to a bold start. There were some changes to the cast and overall style of the show. More intense drama, cinematic storytelling, and a whole lot of action were included. It's kind of funny that after this explosive season opener, we settled down with a touching, melancholic character drama about loss, purpose, and hope. The intent had been to follow the way of the warrior with Hippocratic Oath, a story about some rogue Jem'Hadar. Due to Colin Meaney's filming schedule, the production order got shuffled, and we were treated to one of the most celebrated episodes of the entire franchise, The Visitor. A beautifully acted and presented mediation on loss, purpose in life, and suicide. That's a theme of the episode and this video as well, so please make sure that you're comfortable with that subject being discussed. I remember watching this episode for the first time and thinking that it felt like a fairy tale. We have a young woman, played by Andrew Robinson's daughter, braving a dark and stormy night to reach a mysterious man's home. It turns out that this man is an aged Jake Sisko, and this is going to be the last night he will ever experience. The young woman, Melanie, wants to know why Jake, who was a talented author, stopped creating stories in his middle age and never returned to writing. As Jake humours her, we find out what happened all those years ago. In our present, Jake reluctantly joined a scientific/sightseeing mission aboard the Defiant. It's a once-in-a-lifetime technobabble thing, but Jake's consumed by his writing. His father, Benjamin, coaxes him away from his work to enjoy the moment, but it's not long before there's a deadly accident and the Defiant is in danger. Jake and his dad rush to engineering, and Sisko Sr. saves the day. But an electrical discharge strikes him and he seems to vaporize in front of Jake. So this is devastating, obviously. In the blink of an eye, a young man's lost his dad, and he had already lost his mother. So what can you do if somebody has a tragedy like this? Well, there's no easy fix. It's also worth keeping in mind that everyone else here has lost their CO and friend, so they're going to be struggling too. Jake could have reacted in any number of ways: anger, fear. He could have just shut down emotionally. As it stands, he rather understandably became immensely sad. Older Jake explains that Dax especially helped, and we even see Quark show some empathy.
Now, get down to the storeroom and bring up 5 kegs of Tokarian meat.
Yes, Uncle. Sorry. Looks like we're going to lose our holosuite reservation.
Nog, things seem to be slowing down a bit. I'll get someone else to bring up those kegs. You and Jake go and have some fun.
That's a really nice touch in the episode. Nothing is going to remove Jake's pain. There's no point in even trying. But everyone simply being there for him, well, it might not seem like much, but it's absolutely the best thing that they can do for him right now. Time passes, the pain lessens, and Jake starts to feel like he's getting back on his feet. Then something happens. He literally sees a ghost. His dad materializes before him. Is it a mirage, a hallucination, some alien trick? It could be, and Jake doesn't entirely trust his own eyes. He ultimately dismisses the encounter. Meanwhile, political tensions heat up. People start to leave the station in fear, but Jake insists on remaining, and it's not too long before he has another encounter with his dad. This time, Benjamin speaks up, and Jake even touches his dad before he again vanishes. So this is really conflicting. While seeing his dad apparently vaporized on the Defiant would be traumatizing and horrifying, it would have seemed pretty definitive. Jake was there in those last moments. He helped his dad save the ship, and he saw his dad die with his own 2 eyes. For all of the horror of the situation, he would have at least had a sense of closure. His dad returning like this does nothing but add confusion and continuing heartache. Jake's going to be distressed because his dad is in some technobabble limbo, and Jake is simply not going to be able to move on with his life. And maybe getting a few seconds with his dad at random every few weeks, months or years is hardly a productive familial relationship. The crew try to find a way to bring Ben back, but this whole thing was caused by that wormhole inversion. It can't be recreated, and it's not going to happen again for another 50 years. Political tensions mean that DS9 is abandoned, and Jake does get his life together for a while back on Earth, realizing his ambition of writing some apparently very good books, and even getting married. Then there's another visitation from his dad, and it sends Jake spiraling. Benjamin is desperate for Jake to continue living his life, being happy and fulfilling his dreams, but after this incident, that all goes to hell. Jake stops writing. He becomes obsessed with studying subspace mechanics so that he can find a way to retrieve his dad, and his marriage falls apart. The happy life he was building falls by the wayside as a compulsion with saving his dad consumes Jake. So this is the true tragedy of the story. Jake essentially abandons his own life to try and save his dad, despite his dad imploring him to let it go. It might be a little harsh to describe Jake's actions as selfish, but it's certainly become a destructive obsession. He's not living his own life, ruining his wife's too, even ignoring his dad's wishes in the hope of saving him instead. It's clear that he really is on track to have a fulfilling life, maybe start a family, but he's going to throw that all away. If Jake was thinking clearly, he'd be listening to his dad, who's already told him that he'll be hurt and disappointed to see his son pursuing this quixotic crusade. We get to the finale. Benjamin sees Jake, and it's going to be for the last time. At first, Ben is pleased to know that Jake has got back into writing, maybe choosing to live his life again. But he's horrified when he realizes that's not going to happen. Jake is not going to live his life. He's going to end it. If he doesn't, Benjamin will be lost in subspace forever. By doing this, Ben will be thrown back to the accident and have a chance to avoid being zapped this time round. Jake's life, this future, will be erased, but at least he'll get to start over. All this time, as he's been speaking to Melanie, Jake has been calm and unhurried. In the pre-credit teaser, it was shown that he's not just resolved to take his own life, he's already done it. It's just a matter of time. While Jake's situation is unique and this is fiction, this is something that can happen to people at the last stages of suicidal ideation. It's not true to say that there are blatant signs if somebody is considering suicide, but it can be the case that once the decision is made, once they've truly resigned to taking the action, it can seem to people on the outside that things have suddenly got better. But the opposite's true. They're simply no longer concerned with whatever distress they're facing. They might methodically put their affairs in order, even appear happy because, in a sense, they know all the stress is soon going to be over. If someone in extreme distress just suddenly seems to adopt a placid or even jovial attitude, it might seem like a relief. It may seem that they've moved past their troubles, but please be aware the exact opposite might be the case. Jake dies.
For you, and for the boy that I was.
And we're snapped back to the incident. Ben is still haunted with the knowledge of that other timeline, but this time round, he avoids being dragged into subspace. Jake's plan worked, and we have a happy ending? Well, for the most part. But the Jake who Benjamin visited is gone. He may have been troubled and lived with the anxiety of trying to help his missing father, but he was still a man. He still lived a life. People, including Ben, loved him, and now he's gone. We told with beautiful performances and presentation. Did you know that this episode lost out on an Emmy? It was to a Voyager episode, a pretty well-known one. I am not kidding.
Pretty disgusting, huh?
The Visitor lost out on an award to Voyager Threshold. Now, this was for outstanding makeup, which, okay, for all of its flaws, Threshold does have good makeup, but that still kind of seems wrong, doesn't it? And this episode should have been nominated for its writing and performances. This episode of Deep Space Nine uses a sci-fi concept perfectly as a means to explore the human condition. It makes a strength of a unique aspect of Deep Space Nine, the father-son relationship between Benjamin and Jake Sisko. It portrays grief and loss with sensitivity and honesty. There are great performances all around. Even Cirroc Lofton gets to really put in a top-tier effort. But it's impossible to discuss this episode without talking about the older Jake, portrayed by Tony Todd. Just 3 months prior, his grandmother, who was like a mum to him, had died. This script felt to him like she was telling him to get back out there, and when you watch this episode, if you well up, it's because Tony Todd is really channeling sincere grief. I feel that the main theme here is Jake feeling adrift and unsure how to live his life. For all of the other immensely human themes in this story, that's something that I feel could really resonate with a lot of people. Another strong theme is that of grief. When someone dear to us is lost, it's always going to hurt immensely. It can feel like your entire world has collapsed. But outside of sci-fi, at least the finality is definitive. Jake was never able to really move on, and that's the real tragedy. Finally, The portrayal of suicide in this episode is handled sensitively, and we have a very touching mediation on desperation and hope, and whether the latter is always necessarily a good thing. If anyone is affected by the themes in The Visitor, then please do reach out. You're not going to be the only one, and there is always help available. I'd really forgotten just how good this episode was until I rewatched it again. If you've got any thoughts about the themes or the episode itself, do let me know in the comments.